I'm 108 years old, and I can tell you the exact 7 foods that kept me alive this long. People always smile and lean in like I'm about to give them some magic secret. Potatoes, beans, cabbage, whole wheat bread, apples, sardines, and plain yogurt. That's the list. That's my miracle. I'm saying this to you from a little kitchen in a quiet American apartment complex. I've got one good chair, one wobbly table, and a refrigerator that hums louder than most of the voices in my life these days. My knees hurt, my hands shake, but my heart, my blood pressure, my sugar. The doctor looks at my chart and says, "For 108, you're incredible." I don't feel incredible. I feel like the last one left after the party ended a long time ago. When I was young, I didn't care about living a long time. I cared about paying the rent, stretching the groceries, making my husband believe I was worth what he worked for. We were poor, and in those days, poor meant you learned how to make the same cheap foods feel different every night. Potatoes were the first, big bags of them from the grocery store, dirt still on the skin, baked, boiled, mashed, fried in a pan with just enough oil so they didn't stick. I remember standing at the stove in a tiny rented house, 3 little kids running laps around the table. My oldest groaned, "Mom, potatoes again." I snapped, "As long as they're on your plate, you're doing just fine." Beans were next. Dry beans in a big jar on the shelf, cheaper by the pound. Soak them overnight, throw in an onion, some salt, maybe a ham bone if we got lucky. I brought leftover beans and a slice of bread in an old plastic container to the factory when I took the night shift. The other women had fast food, bright wrappers, big sodas. They'd say, "Girl, you eat like my grandma," and laugh. Cabbage might as well have been our family perfume. Cabbage soup in a big pot, cabbage with potatoes, cabbage with beans, whole house smelling like it for days. One night, my husband came home tired, dropped his lunchbox, and saw the same old pan on the stove. He sighed, "Cabbage again?" I felt small, like I'd failed, even though I knew that pot was how we were making rent. Now I'd give anything to stand at that same stove with him, complaining behind me. Whole wheat bread was the only kind I ever bought, not because I was smart, but because it was on sale more often than the white loaves, the dense, brown kind. You slice it thin, toast it, and it actually fills you up. Every morning before my shift, I'd have a slice with a little butter and black coffee. I'd tell myself, one day, when we're doing better, I'll have fancy breakfasts. By the time we were doing better, the doctor was telling me to keep eating exactly what I'd been eating all along. Apples were our dessert. We didn't have cake very often, but a big bag of apples from the discount bin, that I could swing. Bruised a little, not pretty, but still good. I'd slice them up for the kids after school, sprinkle a little sugar if we had any. They'd crunch and talk with their mouths full about teachers and friends and who said what on the playground. I was always half listening, half thinking about the bills. Sardines came later, when I started reading those little health articles in magazines at the doctor's office. Good for your heart, they said. Cheap, too. So I started buying tins of them. Whole wheat toast, a few sardines, a squeeze of lemon if I had it. That became my go-to dinner once the kids were grown and gone. My daughter would visit and wrinkle her nose. Mom, that smells terrible. She'd bring takeout and insist I try a bite of something fried. She didn't make it to 70. Stroke, sudden. The woman who teased me for my old lady food left before her old lady mother. Plain yogurt came from my neighbor. She was Greek, always talking about good bacteria and your gut. I didn't understand half of it, but I tried a spoonful one day and got used to it. So I started buying plain yogurt. At night, I'd sit at the table with a little bowl of yogurt and half an apple cut up in it. Simple, quiet, nothing special. Those 7 foods, and walking everywhere because we couldn't afford a second car, and working with my hands. That's why I'm still alive at 108. My heart just kept going. My mind stayed clear while everyone kept telling me how lucky I was. But here's the part no one really asks about. What did I do with all that extra time my body got? I told my kids, we'll go to the beach next summer when things calm down. I told my husband, we'll take a trip when I have enough vacation days. I told my grandkids, Grandma's tired tonight. Next weekend, okay? I was always saving myself for later. Later when the house was paid off. Later when we weren't so busy. Later when I wasn't so tired. The turning point was my husband in a hospital bed, wires everywhere, his hand cold in mine. The doctor saying words like advanced and nothing more we can do. We'd spent years eating the food that kept us alive, but not enough years actually living together while we still had the chance. You can't cook one more pot of beans with someone who's gone. You can't sit across from them at the table and say, "Tell me that story one more time." You think there's always one more dinner. Sometimes there isn't. So yes, if you really want to know, these are my 7 foods. potatoes, beans, cabbage, whole wheat bread, apples, sardines, and plain yogurt. They'll probably treat your body kindly. But if you're sitting there listening to me, younger than I am, and you are, trust me, don't just think about what keeps you alive. Think about who you're eating with and whether you're really there with them or already somewhere else in your head. If this meant anything to you, maybe just notice your next meal. Notice who's at the table, what they're saying, how they laugh, how it feels to be there right then. I don't have many meals left. There are a couple of potatoes in my pantry, a cabbage in the fridge, a little yogurt waiting on the shelf. I'll warm something up, sit by the window, and eat slowly, grateful that I'm still here, sorry for the nights I rushed through, and ready, whenever my plate finally comes up empty, to lay my fork down and rest.